Welcome to Business Insider. It must feel a little bit strange sitting opposite the interviewer.
This is not my chair.
Not your chair.
And a little intimidated, but I know you're going to be gentle, as I am with all of my...
Well, a career in advertising, I think stretching over 25 years. Mm-hmm. Then a stint running 3 coffee franchises under Gloria Jean's.
It seemed like 3. I always said it seemed like 3, but it's only just the 2.
Was it 2? Okay.
Yeah, but yes.
And then branching into consultancy. So what's the trajectory of the Cleary business? I mean, where is this taking you, Mark?
If I go back to the roots of it, and I was thinking about your questions last night in preparation, and you know, it's about performance. Even in retail, in advertising, you are listening to the audience, which in an advertising management role is your client. You know, what are they expecting? What do they want to see? Almost a natural progression was into retail, because believe it or not, and in actual fact hospitality, because I don't consider Gloria Jean's is retail at all. It's actually about entertainment. It's about, I recount the story soon after we opened the shop. There was a woman crying in the back corner of our shop at Tuggerah, and I went back to the staff and I said, we cannot have been that bad. And then I went down and saw her, and she said, no, do you know, this place is so quiet and I just feel so relaxed here. And that was about delivering, you know, on her expectations. So it was almost it was a fairly natural progression into business advising and the Big Paddle Company, to go to a place, a client, and ask them what they expect, and then work on how we resolve that. How do we move them there? And you mentioned earlier today to someone, the business plan is dead, and I think you're right. I think what our role now is to provide a path in this age of discontinuous change. So
yeah. So where is the Big Paddle at today? Are you growing the business, actively looking to grow the business, or are you happy where it is in terms of it being effectively, you know, a single person operation? I think you've got some connections through to New Zealand. So just tell me a bit about what the Big Paddle does.
The Big Paddle started life, and it was chosen because our tagline is stirring and challenging businesses. And the fact is, right now our clients don't need to be stirred and challenged. The market has done that to them. And what we're looking at now, rather than taking a paddle to them, is stimulating discussion into new areas. It is about productivity. It is about finding new clients, finding new alliances. And that's where this analogy goes straight in, or the story goes straight into Business Insider, because at a broader scale, that's what for me, that's what Business Insider does. Business Insider hopefully creates new connections.
Right.
So,
and what do you see? I mean, where has Business Insider been rewarding for you? And I guess where are you looking for that to go in association with the Big Paddle?
It was very selfish, I think, early on, because I'm now justified in talking to people who, you know, 2 years ago I would never have felt comfortable talking to. You know, and it will give John Taylor a swell head, but you know, chairman has created 2 multinational companies, international companies, running Central Coast Regional Development Corporation, the toughest job on the coast, I think. And we chat. You know, I get inspired by people, and now I've got permission to call them up and sit in this chair, well, not this chair, but that chair, and talk about that. And that's a buzz for me. The selfishness of it is that I want to spin some of those relationships into Big Paddle relationships.
And so where does the Cleary brand go from here? Is that, you know, looking forward 5 years, you know, what are you seeing in this vision?
I think there's an opportunity to do more of this connecting, and the thought is who should be working together, and the Cleary brand is in that connection space. The monetisation is the phrase that gets thrown around. The Big Paddle company is part of that monetisation because and we've got my bro in New Zealand who runs the Big Paddle over there. We've got consultants we bring in on special tasks in Australia. I see that growing more because it's a natural facilitator of those discussions. I'd love the Big Paddle to be not giving all its money to Business Insider as you would too, to make this thing work, and it will get legs. Everyone tells us what a cool thing it is it will grow. But as you said, Business Insider for me needs to create the traction and create those connections, and I think we've got plans coming up next year to turn features in, do the webinars and create a presence, and I think there's opportunities there.
So coming Business Insider's about the Central Coast, so coming to the Central Coast, I mean, are you passionate about the Central Coast? Is there something about this place that makes you enthusiastic, or does it just feel the same as the rest of Australia?
It's nothing. We're out of Sydney after a life spent in Sydney, and I love the coast, but I hate the coast. I love the environment and being able to walk to the beach in 4 minutes and all of that. I look at the potential and just feel frustrated that I think Seth Godin said, what do you see that others don't see? And I just see a level of comfort, to steal Dave Abrams' phrase, here that is debilitating. We are incredibly comfortable, and the world has changed irrevocably, and no one's told 80% of the Central Coast businesses that they need to respond to that. And whether they're a Sparky or whether they're a Chippy or whether they're a manufacturer or whether they're a telecoms, it comes back to the fact, I used to write business plans. I don't write business plans now, I write business strategies. And you have to be fast and you have to change. And I'm terrified that for all the beauty and all the wonderful people here, the Central Coast actually hasn't got as a group that change.
So if there's a level of comfort here, what's wrong with that? I mean, is there, that doesn't seem to me to be a problem, does that? And most people, if you said, that are in business on the coast, are you comfortable where you're at? They'd probably say yeah. So what's the issue with that?
I guess I'm about change. I like to see people evolve and reach potential, and I've got a history. I can say it here, no one else will hear. I was a cub leader and then I was a scout leader, and I love seeing people grow. And the more comfortable you are, I think for me, it stops that growth. It says, well, change. We've got the landing here, and we've got some incredibly comfortable people saying, no, we don't need to change. We've got 46%, I shouldn't quote that number because it's a bit off the top, but we've got 40% youth unemployment because the human capital leaves, the valuable human capital leaves the coast every day and earns money somewhere else to come back here and be comfortable. It's not a problem with being comfortable as long as you're growing, and part of that process is to keep evolving. So
if you had the ability to change anything, I think this is a question that you've asked many times, but in your case, what would you change?
I think I'd change the way people talk to one another in business, and it's a bit self-centered because I think that's what we're doing that's part of my passion for Business Insider. We know of clients who have watched our interviews and gone to, and done some work with people that they've only met on Business Insider interviews. I go back to Mary Doherty, and the 27 pearls around the lakes up here. and they're silos, and people are isolated, and we have got extraordinary people. We have got world-class IT manufacturer. We interviewed this morning, world-class landscape designer, builder, gets called from London or from Bath in England to do designs on 13th century. We have extraordinary people here, and we don't know about it. We should be celebrating those people. So if I could change one thing, it would be the level of celebration about what's going on the coast, and use it as an encouragement for more stuff to happen.
You're in the consulting business. Give me a tip. Let me put the hat on of what I understand is the typical business on the Central Coast. It's a business that's been in business for 15 years plus, has a revenue of around about 350 to $500,000 a year. What is the tip that you have for me to ensure that my business is still going to be running in 5 years' time?
That description, actually, you're almost old enough to be in that critical. No one's going to know it's your birthday today, so we won't talk about that.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. The person you've just described there's about 3,500 of those businesses on the coast. They have been banking on this business, and the turnover might not be as high as that, but they've been banking on their business to be their retirement fund. And right now, they're realising en masse that what they thought was worth $300,000 is probably worth $75,000 if they can find someone to buy it. So it's not an unusual scenario. The opportunity is, and I would encourage every one of those 3,500 to call not so much a business advisor or a consultant, but find a business professional who they can actually pour their heart out, pour their books out to, and say, I want to be out of this sucker in 3 years' time. So, the presumption that I still want it to be going, yeah, but I want it to be going with someone else. I want to make some money out of this. I'd really talk to someone, and this is a challenge for a lot of those 3,500, because they don't feel comfortable talking. They are comfortable in their discomfort. They don't feel comfortable talking to anyone. If I could change one thing, I would get 150 of those, or 10% of those, 350. Call the BEC, call the Business Enterprise Centre, call one of the chambers, call one of our significant, and you've had this go at me before, one of our significant bank of business advisors and coaches, and just say, let's have a coffee. I've got this business, 15 years, turning over this, and I want to be out of it. What do I do? And what do I want them to do? I want them to talk. Not amongst their friends, because their friends will say, oh, you can't do that, or yes, you can do that, or no, think about this. Talk to someone who's independent, objective, and just talk. They've probably got their own answer, but they haven't heard it from their lips yet.
So do you think that business on the coast is playing to win or playing not to lose? And I'm saying, the vast majority of the business on the coast, where are they in your perspective? You get to see a lot of them.
I think the vast majority right now are playing not to lose, playing to survive. And I don't think it's different for, on the coast. I do business in Sydney and Newcastle. Very, very similar. And that's why the big paddles changed too, because, the big paddle clients are saying, show us who we should be talking to. They are alliances that they would never have considered before.
So what is the transition between playing not to lose and playing to win? How would that come about? Is that driven by the will of the business owner, or is that something that, how would that actually transform?
I think it only has one source, and it's the business owner. And the toughest thing is,
do you need to wake up one day and say, look, I've been playing not to lose, I need to start playing to win, or does that, I mean, how does that come about?
I think you can wake up, but the one morning and say, I am changing, I need to re-energise my business. But it's the discussion you had the night before with your colleague or someone outside your business to say, Bob, do you know how good Video Spark is? You know, you have got the potential to create, social media channels for clients who, need their story told. And in doing that, that person maybe has said to Bob Fitzgerald, yeah, I'm re-energised. I know why I'm back in the business.
Do you think they need to ask that question? Are people actually asking?
I don't think they're asking that question, but they're just saying, well, what do I do from here?
Yeah, okay.
And with with big paddle clients, I say, well, what got you here in the first place? And that automatically takes them to a place of passion. They're a Sparky because they loved the freedom. They loved, being your own boss and doing stuff. They love tricky installations. And why I swerve violently away from being called a consultant, because the classic is, you hire a consultant with to tell you the time, and then they ask you what time you've got. And that is the challenge. The business owner has got the answer. They've just managed to bury it under the GFC, under an illness, or under a bad relationship. And the trouble is, business goes on or doesn't go on independent of all of that. And invariably, what we bring to every one of our clients is an energy that says you can go back there. We can take you back there. You've got to have the energy to do it, and you can do it. And this is where the big paddle, maybe the big paddle changes from stirring and challenging to just plain slapping. If you want to go back there, hire the big paddle, and we will slap you back till tomorrow. Back to that energy level. Because I think that's a common issue. You just forget why you're in the business.
Well, on that note, thanks, Mark.
It does feel like 5 minutes, doesn't it?